And joining us right now on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line from phillyvoice.com. If you're not following on social media and his other platforms, what are you even doing with your life? Come on now. Shamus Clancy joining us right now from phillyvoice.com. What's up, Shamus?
I'm hoping my Farzy Show debut goes as well as A.J. Brown's debut as an Eagle.
All right, well, here's the thing. I know you're going to score at least. I don't know about 155 yards, but I know you're going to get in that end zone. Okay, friend?
I'm probably not a 10-catch guy. I'm more of a Dawson Knox, 1 catch, 8 yards, 1 touchdown guy, I think.
Right. Yeah, the guy that you're shaking your fist at in fantasy that you're playing against. I get it. Yeah. Shamus, appreciate you coming on. Yes, you are making your Farzy Show debut. We appreciate that, man. And I was reading your mailbag earlier today as people were sending in some questions from phillyvoice.com, and I literally laughed out loud at one of the comments where somebody did ask you about A.J. Brown, saying, is he real? Or is like he's some kind of unicorn? And your response was a classic line from Seinfeld. What was it? Go ahead.
He's real and he's spectacular.
He really
had Seinfeld. So many famous actors and actresses are just populated as one-off characters in that show.
I went through the same thing some months ago. It became my feeding show. My son is now about to be 8 months old. And whenever I had to give him his bottle, it was like, I'll just put Seinfeld on and, give him the bottle. But yeah, like so many famous people were like Jerry's girlfriend for like 20 minutes and then they were gone.
Bob Odenkirk as George in the Jerry show during the pilot episode it was Jeremy Piven, not Bob Odenkirk. Yeah.
Right. Jeremy Piven was the fake George in the show. Yeah. And well, he was stealing something, wasn't it? Did he steal glasses or something? Or
he stole like some of the candy off the table.
Raisins. Yes, Raisinets. Yeah. There we go. And there we are. But when it does come to A.J. Brown and what we have seen from A.J. Brown in this one game, do you think it is justified to start the T.O. comparisons after one game as a Philadelphia Eagle?
That's some of the stuff I was writing this summer, and I'm like, am I getting too ahead of myself? But really, they haven't had star wide receiver, like star power like that. Like Deshaun, and I think I wrote about that maybe today, was greatest deep threat in NFL history, but he just doesn't affect the game in as many ways and isn't as versatile as A.J. Brown. At a certain point, just being stronger, bigger, and faster than everyone means you're an elite wide receiver. And I thought the T.O. comparison might be too lofty. If they had a bad week one, I was going to get some blowback. But T.O.'s debut against the New York Giants, week 1, 2004, 68 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, so a little bit different scoring-wise. But A.J. has 10 catches, 155 yards, the first Eagles player to do that since Jeremy Maclin in 2014. Really a performance that Eagles fans, if you're an Eagles fan of a certain age, you might have never seen a wide receiver performance like this before.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Whenever I think of T.O., regardless of length of time, he's the greatest football player I ever watched in an Eagles uniform. I was pretty young for Reggie. I respect Reggie for everything that he was, but for a guy that I could really appreciate, T.O. was the greatest one I ever saw put on a uniform.
Probably the best single season of any Eagle that I've seen. Like, obviously, Brian Dawkins, legends, Hall of Fame career, but I don't think he had a singular season where he just changed everything, not just about the team, but the city, the way that T.O. did in 2004.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, 100%. Now, the Eagles, of course, were leaking some gasoline there at the end of that game against the Lions. What do you see as the number one reason as to why they either took their foot off the gas or they were leaking that gasoline as the game went on?
So I was at Jonathan Gannon's press conference today and did a little article post-press conference on phillyvoice.com, and it seemed to him that the defensive alignment and scheme later in that second half was really based around preventing passing gains and throws downfield and those chunk gains. But what Detroit did successfully, and it's something that teams really do in the NFL when they're trailing later in games in the second half, even it was a 17-point lead for the Birds at one point in the third quarter, they were still running the ball a lot with both Williams and Philly native DeAndre Swift. And I think that kind of caught them off guard, and they still kept playing that specific style of defense, playing back a little bit, trying to protect themselves against long throws downfield. And credit to the Detroit's coaching that they're saying, hey, this is what's working for us. We're not going to be able to probably get back in this game with Jared Goff throwing downfield. So let's just run them down their throats. Jordan Davis is in there a lot. The linebackers, who I think are poised for success this season, definitely relative to the way Eagles linebackers performed for the previous 15 years. But DeAndre Swift, I think he's probably a top 5, top 6 back in the league. If you're playing for to prevent the pass, he's going to gash the defense, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like it. And it made me think for a second there, if the Eagles lose this game to the Lions, it's all because Deuce Staley is a great coach for the Lions, running that running backs room because of how good they were performing, especially later in that game. Interesting things there from Jonathan Gannon. But I saw this name, and I know it's come up more than once. And I remember I talked to Hollis Thomas a couple of weeks ago, and Hollis was bringing up this name for the first time as if he was a coach. Vic Fangio, of course, longtime defensive coordinator in the NFL, former head coach of the Broncos, and he has been around the team quite a bit. Is it too soon to say that Jonathan Gannon could possibly, in the eyes of not just fans, but of the front office and the rest of the coaching staff as well, already be on that proverbial hot seat?
On a pure speculation basis, I will say, going to training camp this summer, saw Fangio there a couple of times. I don't think he has an official role with the team. Mm-hmm. To my knowledge, I would just consider him, if someone asking what his role is, an unofficial consultant is what I would probably call him. Mm-hmm. But I think that it was maybe kind of protecting themselves, maybe not specifically for this year, but we saw Jonathan Gannon actually got, as much as people want to break out the pitchforks right now after week one, was getting buzz as a head coach this past offseason. I believe he interviewed for the Houston Texans job. Mm-hmm. And if it's a situation where the Eagles had a lot of success this year, both offensively and defensively, with all this talent that they added, the improvements internally for some of the young guys, people might have thought that Gannon is a head coach in Canada next year. Maybe the Eagles thought, hey, let's slot in Fangio as this, senior defensive assistant consultant, however you want to give him a title. And then come February, come March, maybe after a successful playoff run, Gannon's elsewhere.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Jonathan Gannon also, at least when the tires were kicked by the Denver Broncos as far as a head coaching job, but I did think it was odd that those rumors of at least that speculation has already started because he got that head coaching consideration in the offseason.
Yeah, and I think that aspect probably took some Eagles fans by surprise, because I would say that Gannon was a pretty divisive figure in the city and the fan base last season. You look at the completion percentage whenever they played a great quarterback, even Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, when they're playing Patrick Mahomes, those completion percentages were just eye-popping. And for however many games on the road, they were giving up the highest completion percentage in NFL history over a certain streak. And then that guy's getting head coaching buzz in the offseason. And if you're a fan, you might be sitting there like, what the F is going on?
and that's exactly what fans were doing. Yeah. Let's talk about the quarterback for a second here. Jalen Hurts obviously going to be under a lot of pressure for the second straight year. Eagles have another 2 first-round picks, at least in the upcoming NFL draft. Week 1, we saw him statistically get rid of the ball faster. 3.12 last year was the average seconds he got rid of the football. This time around, it was about 2 3/4, which is a little bit of an improvement. Running for his life or running too much? What did you make of his rushes against the Lions in week 1?
I was a little disappointed with the offensive line. I'm someone who still certainly believes that the Eagles have the best offensive line in football, whether it's especially run blocking. I still think in the pass block game, they're still an elite unit. But I thought that there was a couple situations I think I'd credit to Detroit's defensive scheme. I think they schemed up some nice blitzes where Hurts kind of had to get out of the pocket right away. And then, of course, there are some moments where he probably does get out of the pocket a little bit earlier than he should. And, sometimes he kind of defaults to his supreme talent with his legs that are really unparalleled outside of Lamar Jackson. But I think overall, guy's not Patrick Mahomes. We know that he's never going to be that type of quarterback. But I think just evaluating him since his first start in 2020 against the Saints, and was that week 15 or whatever that was his best passing performance as an Eagle so far. A little bit more even than some of the highs and lows he's had in the past. And I think specifically that deep 54-yard pass, A.J. Brown down the right sideline right before the first half, was the best throw he's made in his pro career. And I think that in itself has to be an encouraging sign. And someone might say, hey, if that's what happens, it's because they have elite receiver talent. And I was like, well, that's why you get elite receiver talent. If you think your quarterback might just be okay to good rather than great to elite, you want to surround him with the best possible talent to maximize that guy. It's exactly what they're doing. It's exactly what they should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the ball was right there, by the way.
It was great pass. Exactly. When it was up in the air, I didn't have confidence that's where it was going. I'll say that. And then was shocked that's actually where it went.
It's right in his hip pocket, and he was fighting. He was fighting for it too, which is great, which again, to your point, is why you get the elite wide receivers. How concerned should I be about Davonte Smith and not getting a catch in the first game there? How much of a worry is that?
I think as soon as next week, you're going to start seeing that safety shade over to A.J. Brown's side more. He's going to get some double coverage, get some of those things. And eventually, if the defensive game plan is based around stopping A.J. Brown, Davonte Smith is as good as a route runner that I've seen in the last handful of years with the Eagles, where I don't think he's going to have any issues racking up some 7-catch, 87-yard games when AJ might be blanketed a little bit. And I think you're going to see Dallas Goedert getting a little bit more because of how much success Jalen had running the ball, not just as a design runner on some of those read options, but actually those scrambles where he's actually picking up way more yards on scrambles than he is on those design runs. You're going to start seeing a quarterback spy. And if you have, someone double covering AJ Brown, you have a quarterback spy, and then the middle of the field's open for Dallas Goedert before you know it. So there's going to be options for everyone out there eventually that come this season.
Sorry, are you one of the people that were going into this game in week 1 worried about Miles Sanders? I know I was, and it was just because it was just because the hamstring injury. It was the lack of production as well.
I've been a little uneven on Miles and his, I think, kind of a tumultuous Eagles tenure. Maybe that sounds too strong, but he's battled some injuries, had some struggles. I think the fumble issues, specifically last season, were huge. And then last season, when they have that historic rushing attack, a lot of those things started and came into motion when he was injured and they're playing Jordan Howard off the street and they're having that level of success. So I always kind of wondered, what Miles Sanders' true ceiling is, what he can consistently be at the NFL level. But again, last game, that was his best performance maybe since he was a rookie. I thought he was excellent as a rookie and then kind of regressed in 2020. Everyone stunk and sucked in 2020. But even last year, I thought some of the other running backs were out there, maximized the scheme and the system better than he did. But hats off to a great performance. He missed some time this summer. That hamstring injury, when you hear a hamstring injury for a running back, especially one who's going into his contract, you're kind of fear for the worst, think that this might not really work out. They're going to have to add another guy off the street like they've done last year. They did early in training camp. But I think you have to be happy with them. Again, as someone who might be a little more lukewarm on Miles than the general consensus, I was happy with the performance.
As was I. Certainly concerned going into the season, to say the least, along with the hamstring injury, not just that, but the lack of production. Minnesota Vikings next on the Eagles schedule here, Monday Night Football, 8:30. Gut feeling, your far too early gut feeling for the game kicking off Monday night.
Jonathan Gannon probably not sleeping much this week, I would think, right? No. I think Kirk Cousins is a very good regular season quarterback. Wouldn't necessarily want him quarterbacking my favorite team come the postseason, but I think they have a coach there in Kevin O'Connell who's really going to maximize that downfield throwing game. They scored 23 points in a decent Packers defense in week 1, and then obviously Justin Jefferson goes for 184 yards, 2 touchdowns. Going to be hard to stop. I know Darius Slay had a Pro Bowl season last year. I think he should have warranted some All-Pro consideration, but man, that guy is just... He might be number 1 in the NFL for receivers. He's that unstoppable, and he seems like he's already on a trajectory where, that guy's going to be, top 5, top 10 receiver of all time. It sounds hyperbolic, but just based on his numbers, his first couple of years in the league, it's not.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. Shamus, your guy's been covering Philadelphia sports for quite some time now. I know that my viewers, my listeners have been reading you for a while, and I know that you grew up in this area. I know that you're a Philadelphia sports fan. I mean, the banners and stuff behind you will show that. Just let's play this game for just 1 second. What if there was a brawl outside Lincoln Financial Field like there was outside Ford Field? What if there was a fight in the stands like there was at AT&T Stadium with the Cowboys playing? What if Philadelphia fans threw trash at Dak Prescott or Jalen Hurts after a game? How do you think that would have been covered nationally?
Yeah, you think if Jalen Hurts gets hurt, it's primetime night game, Jalen Hurts gets hurt in the middle of the game, the Eagles are losing 19-3 to the Vikings. Things are going south. The defense looks terrible. Offense is stagnant. Hurts limps off the field in the locker room. People are just throwing empty Miller Lite cans at him. I think we'd have a little bit more of a national discourse around fandom and how fans are just so out of control. And it's what's wrong with this city.
Oh, absolutely. It would have been a headline story, and it would have evolved into how do we control fans, not just in Philadelphia, but across the league.
A referendum on just attendees in sports in the entire country, regardless of league.
Yeah, 100%. Shamus Clancy, great talking to you again, man. It had been a minute since you and I caught up. And I do have to do one favor here for our mutual friend, Mike K. Is it true that you were the one that called it on the rain game last week on the Phillies, that you're the one that said it's raining too much, we can't go?
Yeah, but Mike also suggested we get dinner in South Jersey, and I agreed to that, and he did not follow up on the dinner.
Oh! I'm going to talk to that young man.
I thought we were going to audible to dinner, which I was more in favor of for weather reasons, but he didn't really follow through on the dinner comment.
Well, look at him not providing all the information.
Yeah.
Despicable, that guy. You can't trust that journalist. Shamus, great catching up with you, man. Thanks so much for being on the Farzy Show. I'm sure we'll talk to you again down the football season line. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Shamus Clancy joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line.